Welcome to the One Hand at a Time podcast. I'm your host, Chris Welton, and I have a really cool guest today. She is a boss, first of all, a boss, and just a dominant force in everything she touches. We met about a year and a half ago and had an instant connection. She is married to my coach, Adam, but runs multiple KW offices. And is just somebody that I enjoy having conversations about business and just overall life with. Dana Gentry, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Super excited. Very kind words. So thank you. I appreciate all of that so much.
Yeah, I want to jump right in. When we got on the call, you're like, oh, it's one of those, it's a busy day. And I don't know how you keep up with all of it. I'm assuming by the wallpaper in the background, you're in Charleston or in Mount Pleasant.
I am in Charleston. I'm actually, I'm at home right now. I've been at our store for a little bit today and just came back to the house to do this. But yep, I'm in Charleston right now. I live here and also in Kentucky. I still have our house in Kentucky. And right now it's gotten better. I used to be like 2 weeks there, 2 weeks Charleston, 2 weeks there, 2 weeks Charleston. And now I'm usually about 3 weeks Charleston, 1 to 1.5 weeks back in the region at the offices. So it's good. It's definitely chaotic, kind of what we talked about earlier when we were first getting on before you started recording. And there are great days and there are days that, I'm like, you want to pull your hair out. But I think that's when you're an entrepreneur, that's it. That's life. I mean, it's going to be hard to get around that for sure.
Yeah, I think you nailed that. The entrepreneur side of things, definitely, you're going to have some hectic times, some things that are going to be a little, I'd rather have it more stressful than not stressful because that means there's nothing going on. And I think that segues right into the things we do for love. You have this amazing business in Kentucky. You went to that school in Lexington. I can't remember what it's called, but you went to that school in Lexington. And that's where all your people are at. And then you connect with Adam, and now your husband is there most of the time in Charleston. So I'm just curious, how was that? I mean, you had to have some kind of like, man, we get along so great, but this distance thing, how are we going to navigate this?
Yeah, it was hard, for sure. In the beginning, it was really hard. And at first when Adam and I very first started dating, it was fun. It was like, you come to Kentucky, and then, a couple months later I'd come to Charleston, and then as we continued to get more serious, we really had to be intentional and purposeful with it. And we had a non-negotiable for several years that was we would never spend more than 14 days apart. So whether that meant, we would get on a plane and Adam would come to me if I was working in the region, or, I would come back here if he had something going on with his businesses or with the kids. And so we just made our non-negotiable no more than 14 days apart. And you'll laugh at this, Chris. Now we've changed that to 10 days. And so as we've progressed, we're like, Adam's like, okay, no more than 10 days now. But we had to get really intentional with it. And we both actually take the day after Christmas every year, we leave to go to Florida to visit Adam's mom. And we do Christmas with her, and we take the kids and we go down to Naples. And Adam and I usually take one full day while we're there, like right at the beginning of the year. And his mom takes the kids and they go do stuff and hang out. We usually go to the pool or, go to the beach or whatever. But we take our laptops, our planners, everything that we know that we have already like commitments for the next year. So like our non-negotiable of we never miss John Maxwell's exchange event. So certain we never miss Keller Williams family reunion, like certain things that we know when they are. And we actually have these, I have this with me all the time, but we like month at a glance. For those of you that are listening and can't see this, we print off an actual month at a glance, one month on one piece of paper, and we take a few hours and we put everything that we know that we're going to do. Like we just started a tradition of the U.S. Open with the kids. So that goes on our calendar. We put our vacations in, we put our anniversary trip now, and then our learning things that we do. And we really, we live, eat, breathe, sleep by our paper calendar. And that's just how we make it work. We put the kids' tennis tournaments in, like certain things that, are important to us. Everything goes in the calendar, and we spend a whole day, and then we set goals as a couple, we set family goals, we set business goals, and we really, we've done that for, gosh, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years now. And we get better every year. And it really just, it keeps us kind of grounded, but also as things get chaotic, because we live in 2 states and we have multiple businesses, it's just like we always go back to this. And if it's a non-negotiable that's been in there from the beginning, if something pops up, it's really easy to say no to.
Yeah, I think that's powerful to be able to say no to things. And that's something that Adam, he's my coach and has been for a year and a half, and it's been life-changing for me. And I was bad about that for a long time. And now I'm getting better at it. I'm not great at it yet, but I'm on my way to being able to say no to things. And that calendar is so important. First I want to say that it's awesome that you two have a lot of the same interests and you want to go to the same events and you want to learn and do all those things. And I have a similar relationship with my wife. She's all about everything that I want to go after, and I'm the same with her. So that's just, it's such a breath of fresh air to know you have someone always in your corner. Yeah. I mean, that's just such a big deal.
Yeah. Chris, I was married before, and and that was not the case.
Yeah,
and
same.
it is drastically, and nothing negative about him as a person. It's just, it's different. It's a different kind of relationship. And Adam and I, it's not that we work every day to day in the same stuff, but we have similar interests, and we both are growing businesses. And so I do think I talk to so many people that are like, I can't get my spouse on board. And I'm like, man, it really is important, even if it's little things, like tonight for all of my offices, I'm actually having Dr. Kelly Flanagan on Zoom, and everybody's bringing on their partners or their spouses or their significant others. And one of the things I wanted him to talk about tonight is like just getting on the same page, even if everything you do isn't a common interest, because it is very helpful that Adam and I do like the same stuff, and we do like to do things together, because it's kind of like what I always tell people too. When you're going to an event and you don't take your whole leadership team with you, your whole staff or your whole team, and then you come back all jacked up, ready to implement, 20 things that you learned, and they're like, whoa, wait a minute, you're causing chaos. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not bought into that. Where if they go with you, then they're like, okay, I get it, and it saves you time coming back. To me, it's kind of the same thing in your partnership with your significant other, because when we're learning together, then I don't have to come back and like get him on board with stuff, and he doesn't have to come back and try to talk me into something. It's like, no, we got it together. It's good. It's honestly one of the biggest blessings in my life is that we have that.
That's so good. For everybody that's listening and watching, play that back, because I know anytime I've been involved in business and my business partner, or whatever, has gone away to a conference and come back, or they go to their quarterly meeting that I'm not part of for some reason, I don't like it when they come back because it's just like, it's complete chaos. And it's like, here we go again. We're gonna have to reinvent the wheel. I love that. I brought my wife with me to the first summit I went to, which was amazing. She couldn't make it because of some work stuff this last time. I think it's so important to be able to bring your spouse along with you so they can understand what it is that you're passionate about. Before I met Nikki, I sat down with a piece of paper and I wrote down everything that I wanted in my next partner, right? And I was very descriptive because I didn't give myself permission to go after what I wanted previously, and I didn't qualify the things that I wanted in my life, right? So I don't know if you did something the same, but it sounds like you really knew what you wanted if another partner was gonna appear. Is that correct?
I mean, I never made like an actual list. I think that's so smart for anybody that's listening that isn't married. I think that's so smart. I just knew that I talked about this a lot with Linda, my partner on my podcast, and she's such a good friend and mentor of mine. It's almost like, you think about, you know the things that you don't want, I guess. And then once you get the things that you do want on your RAS, your reticular activator, it's kind of like then they're out there. And I don't know, Chris, I'm sure that you would probably say yes to this, but I feel like I've always kind of been made for something more, like something great. And I think when I thought about getting married again, I was like, okay, that person for me, like, has to understand that and be supportive and understand that I'm gonna do big things. I'm gonna make a big impact, and I'm not gonna sacrifice my family for that. Yet it's also really important to me at the same time. And so I think for me that was kind of like the biggest thing, was just knowing that it was somebody that understood that and was goal oriented and wanted to have a big life. And it doesn't even necessarily mean, I think sometimes when people hear a big life, it's like, well, you want to be rich. Okay, well, that's not necessarily it. I live by a John Maxwell quote that John Maxwell said to me one time: you can't be outrageously generous when you're broke. And so for me, I want to make an impact. I want people to say, gosh, she's like the most generous person that I know. And in order to do that, you got to have a big life, quite frankly.
Yeah, I love that. Impact for me is a big deal. That was my word of the year 2022 was impact. And for me, I want to have as much impact positively on people as I can. And does that mean I need to make more money to do that? Well, yeah, it does. And I chased money for a long time at a younger age. You know my story. You were there when I presented it to everybody at the summit. So I chased it in all the wrong ways. But then when I realized it was more about helping other people, the money started to flow to me, and more opportunities have been presented to me. I want to talk about what the role of being a stepmom. I have two daughters from previous relationships, and my wife has been in my life for almost 11 years. My daughters are 30 and 23. And what she did that impressed me so much from the start was she became their friends first. She was on a friendly basis with them. And it wasn't about any parenting or anything like that. It was more of building that relationship. And it's been great. They get along great. I mean, I think they talk to her more than they talk to me, which is incredible. I love that, right? I love that they reach out to her with questions or whatever. So how has that impacted you?
Yeah, great question. And nobody ever asks me about that. So this is kind of cool. I don't know that I've ever even talked about this on a podcast. And I do so many, I feel like. I will say, number one, being a step parent is definitely different. I don't have my own children at this point in my life. And being a step parent, I feel like always gets a bad rap. I feel like people, like we even use the term, they feel like they're treated like a stepchild or, And so I feel like I told Adam so many times, I hate the word step anything. Yep. It just drives me insane because I think it has such like a negative, notion to it. I think it's definitely, from my experience, maybe a little more challenging when kids are older than when they're younger. I mean, I kind of feel like at this point, Addison and Amelia were so young. They were 6 and 8, I think, somewhere around that age when Adam and I started dating. And so they were young, and so it was fun. We did fun stuff and all of that, and just had fun together. And I think as you get older, the blessing is that they have two great parents. Their mom is great, their dad is great. I mean, they're not missing in that category by any imagination. They have wonderful parents, and so I just feel like I get to be an addition to that. And I think it helps when everybody has really great communication. We all have really good communication, and specifically Adam and I are a team, and that's really important to me as the step parent. And is that we're on a team. We don't ever want the kids to feel like that they can go to me if he says no, or same as what they do with regular parents, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. But it's important for them to see that we're a team. I probably, maybe more so than, I don't know if I would say more so than Adam. I just have really high standards on specific things. And so I think one of the positive things that I've been able to bring into their life is just faith. Like, it's important for me that they go to church. Actually, right now I'm paying Addison. Whether you think this is right or wrong, don't judge me. But I know a lot of smart people that paid their kids to read when they were little. Mm-hmm. A lot of them, and I actually learned this from Gary Keller. I recently interviewed Gary Keller's son, John, on Linda and I's podcast. And one of the questions we asked him, of course, was, what was it like having Gary as a dad? I mean, it was like the one question that everybody, wanted to know. And he said, great things. He was hard on me. He was great on me. He taught me to be intentional. And he said, but recently I just went back to clean out my childhood bedroom. He said he and his wife just had their second kid. And he said at his parents' house, at Gary's house, he had this like 2 set of built-in bookcases in his bedroom. And he said that he was going back to just kind of clean out and looking for some stuff and bring some stuff to him and his wife's new house. And he said he was on a stool or ladder or something, and on the top of the built-ins he found all these old books that were stacked up there, and on the top of each book, on the front of the cover, was a post-it note, and it would say like $40, love dad, $75, love dad, $100, love dad. And he said it was like rich dad, poor dad, Start With Why, I think was one of them. So it was all these business books. And he said that he was like, I remember at the time thinking, why am I reading? Like, why does he want me to read this? This is so dumb, but I really want the $40. So I'm just gonna do it. And then today, John was like, oh my gosh, I just see he was being intentional with what he wanted. It wasn't what interested me at the time, but I'm so glad that I read those books because they had an impact on my life. He said, I'm not gonna lie and say I digested every single thing at that age, but it set me up to be a lifelong learner. And I think that's so important. And so I share that story because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to do that with Addison. So I'm a huge Tim Tebow fan, and he just came out with his new book, and it's a daily devotional.
I got it.
You got it? Yeah. So I ordered it for Addison.
I'm a huge Tim Tebow fan. I'm a Gator, right? I mean, how can it not be?
I love it. I know. I love it. So Addison he's getting ready to he'll be getting his permit this summer, and buying Adam's old truck, and so he's been wanting to, like, he was trying to get $1,000 or something, I think it was. So I said, for every day that you read the book and take a picture of it and text me your aha, I'll give you $3, because 3 times 365 days was like close to $1,000. And Chrissy's been doing it. Like, I mean, he's only missed a couple, but he's so good, and his ahas are like, he's really thinking about it. So I think, to sum it up, I think it's a blessing to be a step parent. I'm sure I screw up a ton. I am their friend, definitely. And also, I just want them to know that they can always count on me. And I just want to be a positive influence in their life. I want them to, I tell Adam all the time, I don't want to raise a great 12-year-old. I want to raise a great adult. And that's something that I've heard Andy Stanley preach on for years. And I want them to be adults and be like, man, look at all this stuff. Dana, we have a great mom. We have a great dad. And we have Dana, and look at the stuff that she taught us and the ways that she impacted us too. And so I just try to keep that in the back of my mind, when their towels are all over the place and their kids. Yesterday, I'm like, oh my gosh, they left to go to their mom's, and I hadn't been upstairs for 2 days, and I walked up there, and I told Adam, I'm like, I think a tornado came through upstairs when we were asleep. So you just have to give them grace.
Oh, definitely. I think what's so cool about that is, and the same with my family, is that they get to see a very accomplished woman in their life, right, who has come in and who is loving their father and showing them what a positive, loving relationship should look like. That's one of the biggest things for me, is they get to see what that looks like. And a lot of people don't get that. And that's what's so good in my household, is they get to see the relationship myself and Nikki have, which is incredibly special, and they get to witness that. And then it helps them as they continue to grow relationships, as they get older and do those things. And here's the standard for the relationships in our life. I want it to look like Dad and Nikki's relationship, right? So for me, it's such a blessing to have that, so they can see what that looks like.
Yeah, my parents were divorced. Adam's parents were divorced. So we know what it's like to have divorced parents. My parents actually never remarried. Adam's parents did remarry. And so we kind of have seen it from all of the seats on the bus. And I totally agree with that. That's so important. Adam says that all the time. He says he always wants them to think, when they think of what a great loving relationship looks like, that they think of us.
Yep, that's so powerful. It's so good for them to be able to see that. And I meant to ask you that last time I saw you on the step parent thing, and I don't know what other term to use it. So I agree, step parent can be such a negative connotation, but
no, that's what we say too. I always think, Adam said the other day, I heard somebody say bonus mom or bonus kid. I'm like, yeah, that's also good. But yeah, I always just think about that. I'm going to come up with something great. I just haven't.
Yeah, let me know, because we will use it too.
Will.
So I'm the self-proclaimed king of R&D, rip off and duplicate. So whatever it is, I'm going to take and run with it. So let me know. So let's jump into business. Obviously, do you have 3 or 4 offices now?
I have 3 Keller Williams franchises in Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana, with 10 actual offices and locations. So we've got about a little under 800 agents right now.
Okay. And that all operates under one team? Is that what's called the one team?
Yeah, so I developed the one team platform that we're actually expanding right now into other brokerages that they can use what we've built over the last 3 years, just for leverage and to continue to elevate the value that they bring to their agents. But we started it with my 3 market centers, and we kind of they were kind of the guinea pigs, because it's better to screw up on something that you own than something that somebody else owns.
Yeah.
So we've been testing it on mine for about the last 3.5 years, and this year we're ready to kind of take it out. We've just developed some really good value, really great systems, and I think it could be helpful for a lot of other brokerages too.
So I love that, and we were just talking before that we got on here that I'm going to go to one of your offices in Columbus.
Yeah.
Super excited about that. How did you get from Lexington, Kentucky, and in real estate to where you are now? I mean, I know it's a long story, but like, what made you think outside the box to go from real estate realtor to the things that you're doing now?
Great question. I don't ever. I said this earlier. I really believe that like what you were born to do, you kind of, some people figure it out earlier and some people figure it out later. But I feel like that we all know what our unique abilities are, and we kind of have that just natural, like, okay, this is what I'm really great at. And I've always been really great at connecting people. I've always been really great at influencing and helping other people, and like rallying the troops and leading. Just even back from like being in school. I mean, just my whole life I've kind of felt like that. But I spray tanned naked people when I was in high school, and then got my real estate license. So, I mean, I never graduated college. I think I shared that with you before.
Yep.
I did go to college, but I got my real estate license and I dropped out. I never went back. I never graduated. And I was selling houses in Lexington, and just really kind of knocked it out of the park from the beginning. And I think it's because I have like a couple of little sayings that I kind of live by. And really the first one is relationships always matter. And I've just always been really great at building relationships. I think it's just one of the things that God blessed me with, and I don't take it for granted, and I want to get better at it every single day. But I think when you build great relationships, it's kind of, it naturally knocks over the next domino. And what I mean by that is like one of my favorite quotes is bloom where you're planted. When you, no matter what role you're in, whether you just got your real estate license or you're working at a front desk somewhere, you just, are starting to become a loan officer, whatever it is, if you just bloom where you are planted, and or be so good that they can't ignore you kind of type thing, I feel like that always leads to the next opportunity, to the next opportunity, to the next opportunity. So I don't know whether I intentionally did it in the beginning. Probably not. I was just grinding, honestly, just trying to hustle for, 7 or 8 years. And then when I actually switched from Remax to Keller Williams, I had the opportunity to become a team leader of an office, to run a Keller Williams office about a year after that. And I stepped into the leadership role. And then from there, honestly, Chris, it just was like kind of one opportunity after another, but really because we just kind of escalated and hit our goals quickly in every single thing that we did. And then it was like, you almost get to the point where like, you're at this point in your life where you're like, man, what's my next opportunity? And, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? Without really like crushing what you've already done. And I feel like when you do that, it's almost like then it switches, and you get so many opportunities that you don't even know what to say yes to, and that's where I've been guilty of saying yes to too many things. And then I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Whoa. I got to back up. Like, what do I need to focus on? And what do I need to say no to? So yeah, long story short, I started as a team leader in an office, and we grew that office from 40 agents to 246 agents in 2 years. So I just recruited really well through great relationships, and then it kind of led to other people seeing what I had done in that office and saying, hey, I'm ready to do something different. I have this office. Would you be willing to take it over, type thing? And yeah, being surrounded by really great people. I just think if you want to do great things, you got to have great people around you, because one person, there is no way I could have done the stuff that I've done without really great people around me. No way.
I found through my career in different industries, some people have a hard time putting good people around them for fear of they're going to leave them, they're going to take business, they're going to do these different things. And once I got away from the people that didn't have the abundance mindset, my life changed dramatically. And I'm at a spot in my life right now where opportunities are just like coming at me when I'm not really looking for anything. Like it's just happening. And Adam and I have to have these conversations every week. He's like, okay, does that benefit you? Is that the right move? Are we doing that? And we have my 411, and he's like, what is this new column on the 411? Like, what, you have all this new stuff here. So I understand what you're saying in that. I'm 50 years old now, but I feel like I'm not even in the prime of my life yet. Like when it comes to business and figuring out where I want to be, the opportunities that are in front of me and the growth potential I see, I'm like, gosh, I got to live to be at least 120 to do all the things I want to do. Like it's amazing.
Got to up those peptides.
I do, right? I got to do everything. Yeah. But when I get in the same room, when I get in the room with people like yourself and Adam and just some of the other people we know, it's amazing what you're able to do.
Yeah, I love that.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I'm constantly actually looking for the person that's better than me that can replace me. Because until I get to be replaced in one thing, I can't say yes to something else. And so I think I totally agree with you. It's the whole mindset difference of I want to be the smartest in the room to like, I want to be way not the smartest in the room so that I can go figure out what everybody else has done. And then I want to come back and attract those people. And actually, I just wrote down one of the best things today. And let me see if I can find it because I want to read to you exactly what Gary said. Here it is. He said, find desirable, not just available when you're looking for talent. And I thought, man, that's so good. I was like trying to write it down as fast as he said it because I thought, how often do we look for people because we're in pain? Like we needed to hire somebody yesterday, or we just can't do this anymore. And we just need somebody that is going to show up on time or do the job, instead of thinking, okay, I'm going to find the desirable and not just the available so that it's somebody that really has the potential to replace me one day, which is like the ultimate goal. You should want that for your people.
Yeah, I love that, and you're 1,000% right on the desirable, not the available. Like, man, we have to lower our standards sometimes to bring people in, and that's just not the right thing to do. We end up paying for it in the long run.
Oh yeah, the cost of a bad hire is. I've done the exercise so many times. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. So
yeah, and you don't realize that. You're just looking for a break and bring somebody in.
Yeah.
Let's talk about getting into rooms. And you know that's my thing. Like I figure out ways to get into rooms. I do the one Jordan.
I know you're so good at that.
And I just do different things to get in there. Let's talk about that with you. I mean, you're in a room with John Maxwell a lot. I keep asking Adam for an introduction. I don't know. Maybe I haven't got there yet, but maybe one day I'll get to meet John Maxwell. No, I'm just kidding. He keeps inviting me to stuff I can't make it to. So
yeah, I know. I was gonna say.
Yeah, we just talked about that when I just saw you guys last week. But let's talk about reinvesting in yourself, understanding that it takes capital to shorten the growth curve, right? On how long it takes to get where you want to go. You can invest financially to do that. And then rooms. How have you gotten into rooms where at first you felt like you didn't belong there?
Yeah, great question. So first I would say Gary Keller has always taught us that a line item on your P&L should be, and a pretty good one, should be investing back into your growth. Everybody needs a growth plan. I mean, that's kind of what I was talking about that Adam and I do at the beginning of the year. Part of what we do with our calendars is that's our growth plan. I mean, we say these are the things that we aren't going to miss this year. Other stuff pops up, and if we can do it and we feel like that it's a great opportunity to get in the room with somebody, then we will. I mean, honestly, I've gotten in the room with a lot of great people, and it's been through other people and relationships. And, I remember the first time I heard Linda McKissick has just been like one of the greatest role models and inspirations in my life. She's been with Gary since they were a top agent team in Dallas, and she's been with Gary since the late 80s. And she was number one profit share earner still to this day in all of Keller Williams, and they own tons of investment properties, and they own our region. And so I remember the very first time I went to a Keller Williams event, Linda was teaching, and it was in Cincinnati. There was probably 500 people in the room, and she was teaching like how to get 10 listings a month forever. And I remember there was something about her, and I remember like thinking to myself, and I don't know if this happens to you, but like these little things happen to me all the time. I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to be in business with her. Like I just am going to be in business with her. And I didn't even know her. I mean, that was the first time I'd ever met her or seen her. And so I was intentional. So I think the key word here is intentional to get into rooms. I was intentional that every time I saw she was going to be somewhere, I went there. I mean, I was there, and I wasn't afraid to ask her questions. And, you know, I just wanted to build a deeper relationship with her. And truly, Linda's the one who introduced me to John Maxwell. And then I brought Adam in to John. And so, because Linda took me to an event as a bonus one year when I worked for her, my bonus was a ticket to exchange. And she said, I think she gave me the choice, maybe, like, do you want the cash or do you want to go? I'm like, no, I want to go. And so I think, number one, you have to see that as an investment. And I have been in rooms with people that, I mean, one like drop of nugget of gold that drops out of their mouth can change the complete trajectory of the rest of your life, or your business. I mean, I remember the first time I was in a room with Ed Milet, and he said, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And I was like, why have I never heard that before? That's like the most life-changing thing ever. So I just think you have to think of it, number one, as an investment. Number two, you have to be intentional. Like, now I make a list of people that I want to meet. I know you do the same, or I want to get in the room with, or I want to get in front of every year, or I want to have on my podcast. That I want to be in there. I want to learn from them somehow. Not just by listening, but like an actual, you know, meet them or talk to them type thing. Damon West was one of those last year there. And I just think you have to be open to knowing kind of too. Like right now I've got this chick is on my radar, this Amy Porterfield. She was just on Craig Rochelle's.
I'm reading that. I was reading that on vacation. I sent a screenshot to Adam when I was down the DR. I read that book. Yeah.
I'm obsessed. I mean, I've noted so much stuff. Adam and I actually listened to it together last night on Audible, and I was looking at this too. But like now she's on my list. By the end of this year, I'm getting somewhere to meet her, to see her. So I think you just have to not be afraid to be intentional with it, you know? And we pay a lot of money to go to John Maxwell, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So when you I didn't do that in the beginning, but when you get to a level of, okay, this is what it's going to take for me to really learn and for me to next level, you have to be around people that have already next leveled and that can really next level you. And it almost becomes like, gosh, I don't know. I mean, I get pumped to see like who we can be around and who we can go meet.
Yeah, I'm the same way. When I was at the summit, I had a 9-hour delay flight because we had that hurricane trying to get back home.
Oh, right.
So I sat at the airport, and it was like second week in November, I think, and I started mapping out for the next year on who I wanted to meet or contact with, right? And it was Ben Newman was on there, and who I've already met with Ben Newman, and we're dialed in there, and so I've got to replace him, and now he's got me set up with I've got the shoe size. I'm sending out a shoe tomorrow to John Gordon.
Love it. Oh, I love John Gordon.
I'm going to connect with John Gordon. That's going to be just something that's incredibly powerful.
Will you share, Chris, really fast what you do with a Jordan? Because I want to share this podcast, and some of my people may not know exactly what you do.
Yep. So I find out what their shoe size is, and I usually do that through an assistant because it's an awkward conversation. Now, Damon didn't have an assistant. He's the first one I ever did. So he was like, yeah, I wear a 10 and a half, bro. What size you wear? Like, seriously, like that's what he said. And then when him and I had a conversation later, he's like, just so you know, when you're in prison and they ask you that, that's not a question. That's a fight. You're going to get into a fight because they're going to take your shoes from you. I'm like, oh, okay. Good to know. Yeah. So I take a Jordan, if they're a fan of Jordan shoes, which a lot of people are.
Yeah.
I do a handwritten note and just says, I appreciate everything you've done, everything you provided online, whatever it is, whatever their niche is. And I say, please accept this one Jordan as a gift. If you'll do a 15-minute Zoom with me, I'll send you the other shoe.
I love it. Have you ever had anybody say no?
No. So far, I'm 4 for 4. Yeah, 4 for 4. And Damon West was my first one. And he got the shoe, and he calls me right away. And I put my phone number on there. So I know what state these guys live in. So if I see a number, like it was this number from Texas, I'm like, I'm going to answer. It's Damon West, right? So Damon West and I become fast friends with that. And actually, when I had the delay at the airport, he was delayed too. So him and I sat there and talked for a while he was waiting to catch his flight. So that worked out great. Probably the coolest one I did was when I sent the shoe to Ben Newman.
Yeah.
And those of you who don't know who Ben Newman, check him out. He's got the podcast called The Burn. he's just become somebody who I've connected really well with. So I sent this one shoe to Ben Newman. I get this text message from a number I don't recognize on my phone. And it's a picture of the shoe and the letter, and it's a response. It says, "Chris, you have my attention. Let's do the call." So we schedule it the day after Christmas. I send him the other shoe. We have a great conversation. In 15 minutes, he just breaks me down. Just boom, 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 boom. I'm like, oh my God. I recorded the whole thing, which is great. And I talked about being on my podcast. He said he'd love to be on the podcast. And then I get a box delivered to my house like a week and a half, 2 weeks after that. One of the shoes I sent him. And he writes on it, "Chris, never stop attacking." He signs it. He writes "legacy," and then he writes "standard over feelings," right? And attack the process. So he has, if you see any of his videos, he's got that shoe I sent him sitting on behind him with all his football helmets and all his stuff. He's got the other shoe, and he sent me this one back. So
that is so cool.
Yeah, and that got me an introduction to a guy that I wouldn't be able to. And now I have a call with him tomorrow for 3 hours, just him and I. He's pulling back the curtain on his business to give me all these tips for coaching and speaking and building an online platform. And then I'm going to go spend 2.5 days with him in Las Vegas and Ed Milet.
Love it.
At his event in October. So that shoe has been able to get it. And that's my whole thing. So now I'm writing a book called It Started With One Jordan. And I'm taking
gosh. So good.
I'm taking all the stories from that. And Logan Aldridge, who's the one-armed Peloton athlete, I sent him the shoe. Him and I become buddies. I met him at a golf tournament in South Florida, and we hang out. I'm going to go up there and actually be on the Peloton live in June, work out with him in studio on a live class. It's all because I had the courage to send out the shoe, right? To do that. And then Coach Michael Burt is one who I just sent out a shoe to last week, and he called me, and he's going to do my podcast. We're actually doing his book for my book club right now, and he's going to be on our book club call in 2 weeks. So,
oh my gosh, maybe I need to send Amy Porterfield like a pair of Gucci's or Golden Gooses or
find out what
red bottoms.
Look at her on social media and what she wears.
Yeah,
right.
I'm going to.
Yeah, and just send one. And then they're going to contact you, and that's going to be something different than everybody else. So for me, it was giving myself permission to put it out there and see what happened. Yeah. I'm 4 for 4. I'm sure somebody's going to tell me they don't want whatever, and that's okay. It's getting me places, and people are going to remember me, right? They're going to remember me. They're going to remember who I am, and that's what Damon West says. He goes, "I didn't know who you were before you sent me a shoe, but I'll remember Chris Welton until the day I die." Like that's the guy who sent me a Jordan, and so super impactful to be able to connecting it in those rooms.
Well, and Chris, you just said something I think that's so powerful that I always tell people when I teach. You need to figure out a way to stand out, and you need to figure out a way to do it authentically and in a genuine way, because Craig Rochelle always says people would rather follow a leader that's real than a leader that's right. And so I think people can smell BS from, a mile away. So you have to figure out a way that you can stand out, but being authentically you and really being genuine with it, so that people can feel that with you. And I think, I was just talking about this we're working on the online subscription stuff too right now for our podcast, which is why I'm reading this book. And I was just talking to the guy that's helping us, and we did this survey of all of our listeners to ask the number one reason why they listen to our podcast. And overwhelmingly, above the amazing guests that we have, the value that we give, over all of that, overwhelmingly their response was, I feel like that I know you and Linda. I feel like what you see is what you get. I mean, it was way more than anything else. And this was like 1,700 people that responded. And to me, I'm like, that was the biggest, I love that. I thought that was so great, because you do have to find a way to stand out and set yourself apart from everybody else, especially now. I mean, the app, did you know if you're an Amazon Prime user, you get touched by Amazon 6,000 times a month? I mean, it's like, to stand out in today's world, I mean, there's noise everywhere. It's constant. And I think that when you're doing that, you have to do it authentically. And the Jordans are so cool because that's you, and they're going to remember you, and it's your authentic way of doing it. I love that.
Yeah. If I turn the camera right now, you would see a shoe case full of Jordans and boxes over here that aren't even opened yet of shoes I just got in, that my wife's like, you have two more pairs of shoes that just showed up. So.
Oh, Addison would be obsessed. All he wants is a gift card to the Jordan store for everything. Adam's son. I mean, he buys them and then sells them, and then I mean, it's hilarious. Let's
talk just a little bit more. If someone is trying to figure out what direction they want to go in. And I know you are definitely faith based. I mean, we've had conversations about God and just
Yeah.
and you can, if anybody's ever seen you and talked to you and stuff, they understand that you have huge faith. I'm trying to change careers. I'm not sure what to do, but I heard Chris and Dana on this podcast talking about real estate or just something different.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give someone to make a decision, or at least to help guide them on that they're heading in the right direction?
Yeah. Okay, great question. So, and I've done that many times. I've had to make decisions many times. So, other than the obvious answer, which would be pray about it and make sure that you ask for a sign, I would say a couple different things. One, there's a great exercise from strategic coaching, Dan Sullivan, called the unique ability. You can Google it. I mean, it's free. It'll come up on Google. I think you just put your email address in and he'll send you you'll get to download the PDF, but it's called the unique ability. One, I would say do something like that, if not that one, to really identify what you love doing. And what that exercise has you do is it has you list out up to a minimum of 40 things that you do currently in your job or in your role, in a few days time span. So whether it's returning emails or doing a sales pitch or, talking on the phone or listing a house or writing a contract, whatever it is, you list out every single thing. And then you break them into 4 categories based off of what just totally frustrates you. You hate it, you fail at it, you do it, but you tolerate it. To excellent is other people would say, I'm so great at this, there's nobody better at this than me, yet it doesn't give me energy. To the unique category, which is I'm great at it and I could do it for the next 25 years. It actually gives me energy and passion. And I think so many people get stuck in doing things that just because they're great at them, they really don't give them energy at the end of the day, which then leads to burnout. So number one, I would say do something like that. And the second thing I would do, and this was a part of the unique ability coaching that I did years ago, but they had us send an email to 10, 20 maybe people, no more than 20, maybe it was 15. Who we had worked with and or knew us really well, or we had a relationship with. And it just simply said, I don't remember the script, but something like, I'm working on developing and growing myself better, and I really respect you in our relationship. And I would just love if you would take 5 minutes and respond back to this email. What do you see are my best strengths? And what did you like about working with me? Or, something like that. And then when you get those responses, almost everybody will respond, of course. And then when you get those back, really looking at how other people see you. Because one thing I've learned is that a lot of times other people see things in you that you don't see in yourself. And so it's really great to get a perspective of people that know you really well or have worked with you, because it might trigger something in you that maybe you don't even see in yourself or you haven't even thought about if you're thinking about doing something different. And then now that I'm reading this book, 2 Week Notice, man, I would say it's made me think so differently about this, but set a date or a time that you're this is when, and honestly, I kind of struggled with that in the beginning of her book. And she even says, if you don't hit it, okay. However, because otherwise, what do? We procrastinate, we make excuses, we tell ourselves stories, we create stories in our head. And we'll go round and round and round, and we'll make up all these reasons why we aren't moving the needle forward with something. But if we just have a date and we say, okay, this is when I want to do this by, or this is when I want to make the change by, at least you can progress towards that and you have something to strive for. And I was like, God, that's genius. Why have I never thought of that before? But it's so good. It's so good.
I love the date. I love that. My 4-in-1, I've got some dates on stuff that I want to change, and I've got them in there. And I literally work on that every week. What are the steps to get towards that? And what I find when I put a date on something and then I reverse engineer it, I accomplish it way sooner than I need to, because I'm focused on it. And I was working for some coaching clients today, and we were talking about this. And there were some goals they wanted to achieve, and I said, okay, we have to reverse engineer it and break it down to what that looks like on a monthly, weekly, daily basis, and then we're going to accomplish it faster. And I think that's such great information. I wish I would have had earlier in life when I set goals, because I have all these massive goals, but hey, guess what? Every year I didn't hit them. Every year it was the same goals, right? Well, it's because I didn't manage them along the way.
Yeah.
And
you said 411 a couple times, and I mean, I use the 411 too. And for those people that may not know what it is, it's really like a very, it's kind of crazy to look at it. I'm sure me and you probably have a million columns at the top the
Yes.
same. But it's actually a goal-oriented worksheet that you use every single day, every single week, and your goals roll up into what your 5-year goals are. And earlier talking about running multiple businesses and doing so many multiple things, if I did not have that and stick to that, I mean, well, I know what it feels like because for years I didn't. And your life is just every day is chaos. And so I do think having an important tool like that to be able to help propel you, no matter if you just have one role that you're in right now or you have 15 roles that you're in, something like that just to keep you on track, especially if you're looking at doing something new or adding something on or taking on another opportunity or making a change in your career, whatever it is, because then you're focused on the big rocks instead of getting caught up in like the minutia of all the crap stuff every day.
Yeah, and I love the columns for the personal stuff too. I bring personal stuff in there so I don't lose sight of my finance goals or my family trip goals. And it's all there in front of me, and it's just a lot easier to manage when I can look at that on a daily basis. So I will, those of you that are listening and don't know what that is, I'll put a link in there to a 411 for you. And actually, I'll even put a link in there to an I Love Coaching training that they're getting ready to do on the 411, so you guys can check that out. And yeah, I think Liz is doing one, so we can knock that out and let people understand what that is. So, Dana, you and I could probably talk for hours. I mean, it's just been like there's like a handful of people that I can just like have conversations with, and they run and run and run, and you're one of those people. We end up sitting next to each other when we're at the I Love Coaching event or whatever, and talk, and then we'll have some food together. And the conversations are always, I feel like Adam's the third wheel when we're talking. He's just kind of watching us go.
That's so true.
Yeah, we carry on. So, thanks for taking the time out, and thanks for being so generous with connecting me with your agents and some opportunities to grow some relationships there. And I can't wait to get back up to Mount Pleasant and hang out with you guys again soon.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, me too. I'm excited for you to go to the office, and thanks for asking me. Humbled and honored to be a part of it. And I love what you're doing with the podcast. And yeah, this has been so great. Always great to chat. So thank you so much. And Chris, also, I always, if I can ever do anything for anybody, I'm more than happy to. And my email address is danagentry@kw.com.
Yep. I'll have my editor put everything in there for us, and then also a link to your show as well. And
thanks. Great.
Yeah, no, definitely. We definitely there's plenty of people who want to listen to the podcast, so definitely want to share it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the One Hand at a Time podcast today. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and share. I'm often asked if I'm available for speaking opportunities or accepting new coaching clients. The answer is yes. Feel free to click the Calendly link in the show notes to set up a 30-minute call with myself. And remember, as we move forward in life, we do it one hand at a time.